The Eurocentric imperialistic looting of the kemetic legacy is a layered saga of greed, power, and cultural erasure that spans centuries, with roots stretching back even before the colonial era but exploding in scale during the 18th and 19th centuries. Let's break it down further chronologically, materially, and ideologically to paint a fuller picture of how Kemet, the black land of ancient Egypt, was systematically plundered and redefined. Chronological escalation. The seeds were planted long before Napoleon. Greek and Roman fascination with Egypt, think of Cleopatra's Needles, one of which ended up in London, set a precedent for treating kemetic artifacts as trophies. But the modern wave kicked off with Napoleon's 1798-1801 campaign. His army brought 167 scholars, the savants, who produced the description de l'Egypte, a multi-volume work that catalogued everything from pyramids to pottery. While it was a scholarly feat, it doubled as a blueprint for looting. French soldiers and scientists hoard off what they could, like the Rosetta Stone, later nabbed by the British, and sparked the European craze for all things Egyptian. By the 19th century, imperialism turbocharged the process. Britain's occupation of Egypt in 1882 turned it into a free-for-all. Archaeologists like Howard Carter, who found Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, operated under colonial permits, often splitting funds with local authorities who were puppets of European powers. The Suez Canal's opening in 1869 made shipping artifacts to Europe even easier. Meanwhile, private collectors, like the infamous Giovanni Belzoni, an Exacos strongman turned tomb raider, ransacked sites for profit, smashing mummies to dust if they couldn't be moved whole. Material plunder. The sheer volume of what was taken is mind-boggling. Beyond the Rosetta Stone, consider the Luxor obelisk, gifted to France in 1833 by Muhammad Ali Pasha under diplomatic pressure. It now stands in Paris's Place de la Concorde. Nefertiti's bust, unearthed in 1912 by German archaeologists, smuggled out of Egypt in 1913 and still in Berlin despite repatriation demands. The British Museum's haul over 100,000 items, including the colossal bust of Ramesses II, dragged off by Henry Salt in 1817. Tutankhamun's treasures, while much stayed in Egypt thanks to stricter laws, by 1922, early excavations saw pieces vanish into private hands. Tombs weren't just emptied, they were wrecked. Grave goods, sarcophagi, and even human remains were shipped off, often displayed as curiosities in Victorian palaces or museums. The Louvre's Egyptian collection, bolstered by Napoleon's spoils and later digs, boasts over 50,000 objects. Lesser-known items, tools, jewelry, papyri, flooded auction houses, their provenance erased. Ideological hijacking. The looting wasn't just physical, it was a cultural heist. Eurocentric scholars twisted Kemet's identity to fit imperialist narratives. Ancient Egypt's achievements, its mathematics, used in pyramid construction, astronomy tied to the calendar, and medicine, documented in the Ebers Papyrus, were lauded as universal or Proto-European, not African. The Hamitic hypothesis, a racist 19th century theory, claimed Egypt's rulers were light-skinned invaders, not indigenous Africans, despite evidence of Kemet's deep ties to Nubia and broader African cultures. This erasure was deliberate. When hieroglyphs were cracked in the 1820s, European academics controlled the story, sidelining Egyptian voices. Museums framed Kemet as a lost civilization rescued by the West, ignoring its living legacy in Coptic and Islamic Egypt. Meanwhile, colonial laws banned locals from excavating their own heritage, ensuring Europe dictated the narrative. Power dynamics and local complicity. The looting relied on unequal power. Ottoman rulers like Muhammad Ali Pasha, eager for European alliances, traded artifacts for guns or favor. Think of the Dendra zodiac, cut from a temple ceiling and sent to France in 1821. Later, British and French consuls like Salt and Rovetti ran artifact smuggling rings under the guise of diplomacy. Egyptian workers who dug up these treasures got pennies. The colonial elite got the glory. Lasting impact. By the 20th century, Kemet's legacy was scattered: Paris, London, Berlin, New York. Egypt's 1922 independence and laws like the 1983 Antiquities Protection Act slowed the bleed, but the damage was done. Today, repatriation fights, like Ethiopia's for the Aksum obelisk or Greece's for the Parthenon marbles, echo Egypt's struggle. The 2021 Grand Egyptian Museum opening near Giza is a reclaiming of sorts, but most of Kemet's masterpieces remain abroad, symbols of a stolen past. This has been a Sharri Plaza presentation. Special thanks to Mother Tracy Olsen, a very kind soul and upstanding man of honor and regal stature.